My guest today is Luigi Prestinenzi. Luigi has spent his entire working career in sales. So he started his sales career in a call center, the hardest of all types of sales in the world, right? Then working his way into B2B sales with his first major milestone was winning an 8-figure opportunity with a global media brand. So he has managed sales teams and now works with sales professionals and helping them be the best that they can be. So in today's episode, he talks about how important is it to know your audience when developing your sales message? When it comes to developing the right message to engage your buyer, what should sellers focus on during a downturn? Why is prospecting such an important skill to work on? Let's jump right in. Welcome, Luigi. I'm excited to have you here. It's like so interesting to actually have you on a podcast with me. We've talked so much in the past that
yeah, Linda, I'm excited to be on. I mean, I've seen you've had some pretty cool guests on your show. You've got some really cool topics. So I'm excited to talk to you and dive deep into the conversation.
Yeah, and I haven't had anyone talk about sales, which is why I'm really interested to talk to you, because one of the things you hear so much, I mean, we're all selling in one way or another, whether it's telling a friend about a movie that we saw, recommending, for me, it's like my friends are like skincare products or something, but sales gets like a bad rap. Like, what is it about sales that it's always stereotypically like the bad guy in a show or something? Like, what is it about sales that makes people, it's not a popular person who's a salesperson? That's what
I think if you look back to all the movies, all the popular movies that we've watched, Wall Street and Boiler Room and Glenn Ross and The Wolf of Wall Street, for example, all incredible movies, but they all relay a particular persona, a particular sales persona of a salesperson that is only focused on meeting their needs, doesn't really care about the other person. They're just looking to make money, right? That commission breath. For so many years, that was the way that many companies kind of went to market. They had this, you think of the car yard, you think of the car yard interaction, right? The buyers going, I'm going to get the best deal for me. And the sellers going, I'm going to get the best deal for me. So there's already tension there. Yeah. There's a kind of a wall and they're pushing up against the wall. It's not a win-win and it's negotiation. It's back and forth. There's a lot of tension there. And also there are certain behaviors that the sales profession has done for so many years around maybe not telling the truth just to get the deal done. I mean, we've seen this in the finance sector, the banking sector, insurance, like so many examples of where sellers have created the negative stigma around it, right? But I think that's so far from the truth. Like when you actually truly think about what selling is about, my philosophy is that true selling is about helping people achieve a positive outcome. You're helping them not just fix a problem, but you're helping them achieve something that will benefit them. This is where I think if you can rethink the way you look at the whole aspect of selling, you can actually have a better relationship with selling. And I know that, you're talking to a lot of people in your audience that, they're consultants, they're sole contractors, etc. And they might struggle a little bit with that whole coming across salesy. But when you truly do change your perception around it and think the people that I'm talking to, I can truly help them improve their business. I can truly help them achieve something better. Then my job is just to facilitate a conversation. My job is to guide them. My job is to nurture them. My job is to educate them, help them realize things they might not realize that's happening in their business, that unrecognized need, so that I can be a value creator. And I can help them make sense of all the information that might be going around in their world. And my role is about really bringing together all these different things that are happening. And I truly am a value creator. Now, when we change our mindset and when we change our view on that and thinking about those words, nurturing, educating, creating value, helping them see things they might not have seen, teaching them things they might not know is happening in their business. For me, that's what selling's about, right? Yeah. And helping them arrive at a point of decision where they're confident in the decision they're about to make. Now, if we think about that, what are some of those words I just described? They're not manipulative. It's not tactical. It's not about persuading you and using a technique to get you to buy, right? Because that will work. Absolutely, those techniques will work. You'll make a sale, but you won't create a customer.
Right.
And the difference is a sale happens once, but a customer will buy again and again.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So again, we need to and that's when, and I, did I exhibit some of those negative behaviors early in my career? Absolutely. I was guilty of that. But it wasn't until I realized the true meaning of what selling is about that my career skyrocketed.
Wow. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways you got into sales? Because you really started with some of the hardest, to me, like the hardest sales jobs ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started actually my very, 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 very first role into sales. And this is post school because I was always hustling at school. I was always buying and selling goods, right? Making a dollar here and there. But my first kind of real experience is I got a job at an exclusive menswear place when I was 17 years old, and I was earning $410 a week. And they were selling belts for $1,000, suits for $4,000, shoes for $1,000, shirts for $500. So we were selling to kind of people that were earning significant amount of money. They'd come in, spend 10, 20 grand, which was huge money. And I was, like I said, 17-year-old earning $410 a week going, mate, these guys are spending bloody what I'm earning in a year. They're spending in one kind of transaction. But what was interesting about that role is it truly taught me the importance of creating an experience. They weren't just coming in to buy the clothes. They were coming in to buy the experience, the feeling, the fact that as they were, wearing these incredible clothes, Valentino, Armani, Xenia, some of the best brands in the world, an exclusive menswear shop back in the day. But the way they made them feel, sitting down on a nice couch, right? The coffee, going out, and they had a place around the corner that you could go get a beautiful lunch while your clothes are getting hemmed. Just little things like that. Like they created a true experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about helping them feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And for me, that I didn't realize how important working in that place was until 4 or 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved into call center work. So we used to call it telemarketing back in the day. This was like when I was 19 years old, 18, 19, hardcore calling, right? We didn't have dialers. It was literally a telephone pad. We hit the pad. We had a pen, we had a ruler, and we had a sheet of people's names. And it was literally G.A. Smith. And you'd call and go, oh, can I speak to Mr. Smith? And it was hardcore calling. You'd be dialing. And so that was an interesting, and that did teach me a lot about, intonation, the importance of tone and pitch and speed and mirroring and all that sort of stuff. Then I moved into door to door. I've done kiosk sales, and that can be brutal, in a shopping center.
Yeah.
A kiosk for 8 hours, people walking past, they see you, they quickly look at their phone or they look away or to get eye contact. Because when you got that eye contact, it's hard to kind of not have, communication. So that was fun. That taught me a lot about kind of resilience and taught me a lot about you just accept the rejection as part of the role. And then
I was going to ask you that, like, how did you handle like the telemarketing? Because everyone talks about getting all these cold calls at dinner and how rude it is. And did you always have kind of a thick skin about it, or did it bother you at first? You got used to it? How do you overcome all of that? Because how often would you make a sale with something like that? Just pure cold call.
Well, we had a target of 2 a day, and that's an 8-hour day. So if you think about it, a lot of calls for 2 a day, and you're making a lot of calls. There was literally a guy at the front. It was a massive call. It was 80 people. It was literally boiler room, right? 80 people. A guy, basically, he was a spruiker on the weekends, and he'd be at the front and be trying to keep people motivated, and a lot of attrition, a lot of churn in this place. There's probably 40%, 50% of churn because people would come in and they just couldn't cut it, right? It was difficult. I tell you what, I'm so grateful for that experience because I quickly recognized the need to identify, like, what do I need to do to get an outcome? So I knew X amount of calls would lead to conversation. X amount of conversations would lead to me being able to pitch something. X amount of pitches would me be able to get an outcome. And once I knew what the numbers were, I didn't have to worry about getting hung up on. And people said some brutal things. You're calling people in their home. They're telling you where to go. They're calling you all these nasty names. And I'm like, well, it was part of the process. So I needed to go through those issues, not even issues, but I needed to go through those calls to get to the outcome that I needed to. And so it didn't really affect me because I knew it was just part of the process. And that's the same methodology that I've used throughout my whole career, is going, well, hang on, I know that, there's going to be certain emails that I send that people aren't going to respond. There's going to be certain relationships that I create We've all been there where we think, you know what, we've got this deal. I've got a great relationship with Linda. She's given me all the signals. I sent her the proposal. She's given me the yes verbally, and then she goes to me for the next 2 months and I don't hear back ever again. Then you can free your mind, like, have I done something wrong? That's just all part of the process. That's part of being in sales. And you've got to factor that in when you're doing your numbers, when you're actually coming up with your sales plan. You've got to factor in that each stage of the funnel, people are going to drop out.
Mhm.
And if you don't factor that in, this is where you're, as a business, especially if you're a solopreneur, right, and you're working on your own, this is critical, is you've got to understand what your metrics are, because this could be the difference between a really good month or a good quarter or a quarter where you earn no money. And that's why I respect people like yourself, people that are going out there. They're not on a base. They eat what they catch. And if they don't catch, they don't eat. Right. And, so again, that's why, it's for me, it's crucial having a bit of a sales plan and knowing what are the performance metrics that drive each stage of your sales process.
And also, at my point in my career, it's like, I find it really helpful to know people like you, and also people who, I have a coach and I work with other, copywriters, to, when it happens to you, you feel like you're the only one, like everybody else is doing great. Because that's all you hear about, like on LinkedIn. People don't talk. Once in a while, they'll talk about failures, but usually it's like, hey, I got, 20,000 followers and I'm, and all the successes. It's like all social media, that's the highlight reel. And so it's easy to just think, wow, I must really be messing up because I don't have that kind of results. But it's just, people don't talk about that, but it is part of it.
Yeah. But for me, I truly, and look, I totally get that. And I'm guilty of it too. I look at some people like, man, they must be crushing it. I'm feeling like I'm a hamster wheel here, running at 400 miles an hour. I'm not getting anywhere. But I think, and again, this is where, like, I've got to the point where I've got to today, and I've been fortunate to put together some really cool deals with some really cool brands, ranging from 50K, and my biggest was just under 20 mil, which was kind of, so far, that's my biggest so far. So hopefully I can beat that at some point in the next 10 to 20 years. But there's one thing that there's more learning in opportunities that don't progress or don't go the way that you want them to, or don't go the way that you plan, because that's when your skill development really kicks in, right? But you've got to have that open mindset and growth mindset. Some days I have it and some days I don't. But I tell you what, when I have that growth mindset and I really do reflect on an opportunity that might not have gone to plan, and you should do this on opportunities that convert as well, right? You should do a post-deal assessment. But there is a lot of learning when you assess when things don't go to plan, right? When you might look at and go, you know what, I skipped a part of the process, or, I didn't actually bring enough value, or there wasn't enough, I didn't have enough stakeholders because I was selling into an enterprise opportunity and I was single point sensitive, and that limited my ability to influence a buying committee. I think the learning from that is crucial. And so even though a lot of people are out there celebrating success, I think there's so much opportunity for people to actually talk about, your biggest sales F-ups, because that's where the learning really occurs.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to get down on yourself sometimes too. I had a coach, a copywriting coach, and she had us all create what she had us call the cheat sheet of awesomeness. And we would write down everything, like our biggest successes and the things that really, where we really did a great job, and to have them on the sheet. And she said, before you're going to get on discovery call, or anytime when you feel like maybe, I don't know if I can do this, you take out that cheat sheet of awesomeness and you review your past successes. And it just does. And I've shared that with people on LinkedIn a few times when people have talked about, I'm just really bummed about this and I don't know why this happened. I said, just do this. And I think it's really helpful because we all have that, when it's happened. It's like we think we're alone and we're not, and we think no one else goes through it, and they do. And so it's a whole mindset, like you said, and it's data, right? I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's, okay, this didn't work. So why? What happened? Like you just said,
Yeah. And the reality is, right, like, one thing that we know is true in sales is that you will hear no and not now, and this is not the right time, more than you will hear yes. And I haven't met someone that's had an 80 or 90% conversion rate across all their deals yet. It's more so the opposite. Yeah. It's 5, 10, maybe 20% conversion rate, even off really good inbound, even when companies have got a strong inbound lead channel. It's never the opposite, over 50% conversion. And that's another thing that I think we need to embrace. And we've got to disconnect our emotion to the no, to go, sometimes even when we follow everything, sometimes it's not about us, right? Sometimes it's more about the buyer. And even when we give them a great experience, we help them understand the value. They quantify how the business case will impact them. Sometimes it's just not the right time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why experience is fundamental, because people will remember how you make them feel. And if you give them a great experience, and again, if you haven't got that commission breath and you really are putting them at the center and going, hey, this is about you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm going to try to give you the best experience. I'm going to help you make sense of everything. Even if you don't buy, that's okay. I'm still going to serve you in the best possible way that I can. There is a good chance that when they're ready, they're going to come back, right? Because you haven't just been chasing that transaction. Yeah. That commission check. So that's a bit of advice that I'd give any person, any solopreneur, any small business owner that is struggling to go out there to create their own opportunities because they don't want to come across salesy. You will only come across salesy if you put your needs first.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. And it kind of segues into what I wanted to ask you too about messaging, because people even say copywriting. So I do conversion copywriting, and I've had, isn't that like manipulative? And it's not. I mean, what I say is, and tell me if you agree, is you're just helping people make a decision. And the decision, either the product or service is not for them, but you're presenting, and it's not manipulative, even though we use like decision-making psychology, but that's just to be able to meet people where they are. I mean, what do you feel is like that connection with messaging and sales?
Well, again, and I love the book, you would have read it. Pretty sure you were influenced by Cialdini, right? Like, it's a great book. There's so many awesome studies that he references in that book, right? But for me, if I'm very clear on my audience, my persona, I've studied them, I have a clear understanding of some of the roadblocks that are impacting their ability to achieve a certain outcome. If I've gone through that process, and I'm creating some copy that is allowing them to have that aha moment, or that creates curiosity, and I'm using keywords like I'm using social proof and other nudges that we know work in copy, that for me is not manipulative, because all I'm doing is I'm helping the buyer go, I'm just trying to create a conversation. I'm trying to get them to respond. But if I've done the research, if I've taken time to really understand my audience, and I know that they are suffering from X symptom, these are some symptoms that are impacting their performance, and I can help them, potentially see how they could do things differently. There's nothing wrong with putting some copy in there that allows them to arrive at that point of aha, right? Because that's what good copy does. Good copy really talks to the person that's reading it and like, what, this person completely understands me. Yes, this is top of mind for me right now. This is on my whiteboard about a couple of problems that is impacting performance, and I do want to talk to this person. I don't have an issue with that. Yeah.
And I think that's where people believe that it's all, it's manipulative, and you hear there's a lot of clickbaity copy out there, headlines that will pull people in, and they're pretty irresistible. Like BuzzFeed does it all the time, and it's like, I just have to know what this is about. And then you get on the article or the slideshow, and it's usually just full of ads, and it's all just to get you to go through all, and it's clickbait. It's not really giving you the value that you expect from the headline.
I mean, it's just like, those shops, right, that are constantly having a clearance sale. You walk past and it's got clearance, and it's, this weekend only or something, or you get the email saying clearance final price or something. They've put something in there that's kind of like a compelling reason to take action. Now, that'll work if you walk past once, but there's a place near where I live, and they've constantly got the same things in the window. After a while, you're like, it doesn't work. because I go, this is not a clearance. It's just the way that they're trying to attract people into the store. Yeah.
But they raise the prices of their original price, and then they tell you that it's a sale price, and it's just a regular price. Yeah.
Yeah, that's manipulative. You know, that for me, that's not ethical, right? But again, this is where the clickbait stuff will work to a certain extent, but then after a while, the audience is going to be like, well, every time I click it, I go in there, there's really no value.
Right.
You're jamming down. So, but this is where I think there's a healthy balance, right? We've got to have some element of persuasiveness in our copy to create a level of curiosity so people want to know more. But if we don't study our audience and we don't know what's driving our audience, at some point, we're not going to be able to go deep in that conversation with them. And this is where I say that I've sent some horrible emails that have landed me incredible meetings with some incredible senior people, right? And the structure of the email might not have been perfect, but because I did a hell of a lot of research, I made it relevant to them. They were like, you know what? I want to talk to Luigi. And then I've sent some incredible emails that I thought are perfectly worded, the right structure. They get no response.
Yeah.
So again, I think that the fact research, and I just did a post around this, research is a sales superpower, right? It allows you to show somebody that, you know what, I'm earning the right to get your eyes on this and to get your attention, because I've done a lot of research and I'm making this very relevant for you. And I'm not talking to 1,000 people. I'm talking to one person now.
You can tell. And I've told you this in the past that I've sent out a couple of, cold emails that I got a good response from. And it's in order for that to happen though, at the level that I was aiming for with these particular companies, I did a lot of research into what was happening within the company. I knew what roles this person had, I did way more than I had to do in order to write this email, but I wanted to make sure that the voice was what they had. And I have gotten responses from high level executives who wanted to talk to me because of my email. And even one that wrote back and said, you know what? I loved your email. He said, this was an awesome email, but we don't have any need for your services. I just wanted you to know it was a great email. Didn't do much for me. But it's still, at least it showed me, that I was on the, so, and the ones that I respond to are the ones that are really in line. We all get the ones that are just such a mismatch. Like, oh, I think that I got like 2 today. I'd love to talk to you about a possible collaboration. It was something that was completely unrelated to anything I do. I'm like, what made you, I wanted to write back and say, what made you think that we would be a fit? Like, there's just nothing.
Yeah. Or you get the ones that say, we've worked with similar companies like Volkswagen and GE Money. You're like, mate, I'm not Volkswagen. I'm not a 30 or $40 billion company. Thank you. So yeah, your sequence needs to change. Your copy needs to change and you need to alter. Yeah.
I know, exactly. But one thing I wanted to ask you too, you talk about selling as transferring belief and enthusiasm. And I love the way that sounds, but can you get into exactly like, what do you mean about that?
Well, if you don't believe in what you sell, why would your prospect or buyer believe in what your product or service can do for them? So I've said this, I've had this tough conversation with sellers, because the biggest objection you will never overcome is the objection that you haven't overcome yourself, right? And I've had this conversation with sellers that truly don't believe in what their product does. And I'm like, well, you're going to struggle to get them to believe, because if you don't believe that your product can actually help them, then they're not going to see that this will work for them. And it's probably time for you to get another job, or go deeper, because sometimes sellers don't go deep enough. Go and actually look at, and this is what HubSpot did really well in the early days. Mark Roberge, I'm a big fan of, he made his sales team build landing pages and marketing pages to see the challenges that marketers went through when they were building certain things, right? So they could truly understand how their product or how their, platform could help them. I love that. And again, that was I had a huge improvement in my career when I started to not just study my audience, but go into the audience and really feel and see how the problems that I was talking to about were impacting them. And then how what we were selling was helping them. This is where, again, there is the hard path in sales and there's the easy path. And the hard part is actually doing work, is doing that research, looking at the use cases. That's actually hard. Like, this is the thing. To be a successful sales professional, to be a successful, consultant, whichever way you want to frame it up to the audience, and especially in 2023, where we're going to be moving into a bit of a financial challenge, right? The economic climate's going to be difficult to sell in. There is no kind of silver bullet. There is no corner that you can cut. It's going to be hard, but the high performers will work hard. And when I say that, I'm not saying they're going to work like ridiculous hours. I'm saying those are the things: studying the audience, understanding how the problems impact their business, knowing how the product or service they sell actually helps them. Like that sort of stuff, going and doing that research, for me, again, that's fundamental. So in order for you to believe in what you sell, you've got to see and feel how this does impact people, and then you transfer that belief. Right. And that energy that you transfer, because we know this, the law of attraction is real, right? If you're bringing positive energy to the table, you're bringing self-belief, they're going to see it, they're going to feel it, they're going to feel more confident in your ability to help them.
I was working for a healthcare company that was selling a product for cancer patients. And I spoke to people, the cancer patients. And you want to talk about emotional, it was difficult. They wanted to talk to me because the product had helped them so much. Yeah. But to be put into their day-to-day activities was so powerful. And so I was able to use some of that, even just knowing what they were going through would come across in my copy without me actually having to, say the exact words. But you do pick up on phrases and the things that they talk about a lot. And I've talked about this on LinkedIn a few times, which is that you want to even get details about what they do in leisure time. If they're willing to, you can tell when you talk to somebody, if they're willing to give you that, like, oh, do you follow any podcasts? Is there anything, TV shows that you really like? And sometimes there's a common thread, like people tend to gravitate towards certain things. And I could even weave some of that in. Like if a lot of people are, it's an audience who they walk their dogs every morning and they go to Starbucks, I can weave in something about that. But that was one of the most powerful, interviews I had to do with people, in that business. But yeah, even anything, people are struggling, with something.
Yeah, but that's interesting, right? Because I know, like, that's very emotive, yeah? Like you're talking about people's health. Health is emotive, and this is, again, the whole premise around the people buy with emotion first and they'll justify with logic. And there's a lot of data to prove this concept.
Yeah.
And emotion drives action. Yeah, I totally connect. And then again, if you can understand your audience and you can understand where the emotional connection and bring that emotional connection in earlier in the conversation, you're going to have a much more deeper conversation with your buyers.
Yeah. And the thing that too, and in fact, I just posted about this yesterday or today on LinkedIn, that people confuse buying with emotion. Emotion and emotional are two different things. Emotion would be just a pang, like a nudge that you're feeling. Oh, this is, this is ringing true for me. Emotional, it's like, because when people hear that and they're like, well, I'm not an emotional person. It doesn't mean you're sobbing over the copy. It just means that it struck a nerve with you, literally.
Yeah. And you're right, because there is differences in it, right? And we also don't want to come across that we're manipulating people around certain topics where they could be vulnerable. And I've been like, I've been to certain events where I was observing the way they were really focusing in on quite vulnerable topics that would compel people to take action. And I'm like, mate, that is, again, for me, I don't agree with that type of selling. I just don't agree with it. I think it's unethical. And I don't think we need to do it. Like if we follow a good process and we give that good experience and we do, some of the principles that I spoke about, if we're nurturing, educating, guiding, helping, we're problem solving. I'm also a big believer in creating value before they even purchase. Like what you're doing with your podcast, right? You're creating content, you're creating information, you're creating value for your audience so that they're already building a level of trust with you. And you're already helping them in their business before they even exchange any sort of money for your service. Yeah.
They need to know you a little bit. I think it's not that they need to, but it's much easier. It's like having
Yeah.
a friend, telling a friend about something you like versus going up to a stranger and trying to tell. I mean, they don't know who you are. What are you talking about? So even
Yeah.
that's why LinkedIn is so great, because you can get to know people, see what they're posting, comment, and
Yeah.
that exchange, and then connect in that way. It's really helpful. But yeah. So what do you have new projects on the horizon, or what is happening in your own business?
Yeah. So there's two things I'm really passionate about. That's going to be my focus for 2023 is building a community called the Growth Forum, where it's helping not just salespeople, but marketers, anyone that really is looking for personal growth. So, the key pillars that we focus on is professional development. We're focusing on marketing. We're focusing on entrepreneurship, and we're focusing on sales. So they're the kind of things. And we know that caters for not just sales professionals, but business owners, marketers. Any of those kind of key pillars are important when it comes to modern day business. So that's an exciting community. We've got some incredible contributors, live events every month. Again, the whole premise is really creating so much value. So that's an exciting project. And also the Skalable Growth program that I'm facilitating for. It's not we're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of people go through it. Literally only 4 intakes in 2023. I'll be working with a small group of salespeople, even business owners, really helping them develop their sales plan, helping them develop their strategy in generating business for themselves and closing business. Intensive programs. So they're the sort of 2 key things that I'm really passionate about. And that's what I'm really excited to bring to market 2023.
Is that a year-long project, a year-long program with the?
Yeah. So the program is, it's around sort of 12 to 14 weeks, quite intensive, but not just training, but there's coaching and there's tools. And I basically provide participants with all the tools that I use and that I have used to close, 10K deals right through to multi-million dollar deals. So they're proven tools, and I work with sellers in really helping them contextualize those tools for what they're doing in their life. And I've got some incredible results from students that I've absolutely adored working with, from HubSpot and DocuSign, and Stripe. So some great brands, and their sellers have achieved incredible results. Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah. That's all exciting. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where can people find you to find out more about you or connect with you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, just type in Luigi, Luigi. Hopefully I come up first, but just Luigi and my surname, and you should be able to find me. Jump on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, follow me, send me a note, tell me what you love about this episode, tell me what you hate about this episode. But LinkedIn's probably the best place to connect and engage with me.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Luigi, for being here. It's been awesome. Appreciate your time.
No worries, Linda. Thanks for putting out such incredible content.
Thank you.